Thank you so much for coming here. We're really, really glad to have you guys here today for the Youth Ocean Alliance World Oceans Day Summit. Just really quick housekeeping before we start. We're here at Cafe 8 today, who's been amazing with the space. We have a lot of staff here who come from the Nesbitt Center and speakers sitting in the audience, and of course our audience online. We're really glad to have you guys here today, and I can't wait to get started. I think everybody should have a drinks voucher, so if you want to get some drinks, then you can go up to the counter. But otherwise, I will begin. So 2 months ago, I hit a rock bottom of sorts. For somebody with a lot of energy, I felt like I had none. Being a teenager seemed to have caught up with me. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the beautiful force that pushed the energy and spirit back into me. You guessed it, people. I'm sure you were expecting me to say the ocean. As much as I love the ocean, protecting it is an immense challenge and very intimidating at times. Today, I'm standing in front of a room and feeling very energized. I couldn't be happier that we're joined with ocean experts, audience members from around the world, and together with our wonderful team of volunteers. It's humbling to see a group of people come together in interest of the oceans. I've grown to become less of a fan of advocacy. It's challenging to convince people to change their ways. As Sylvia Earle always says, ignorance is by far the biggest threat to the ocean. A lack of care has led to the deterioration of ocean health, but knowledge is key to the resolution. Now, more than ever, we realize that we're all connected. We're closer than ever, despite social distancing. We find it hard to witness the changes taking place below the surface. The size and vastness of the ocean creates a disconnect. But unknowingly, we're all connected to the ocean. Water runs through every type of ecosystem, and our daily lives are all dependent on it. Nobody who has truly experienced the ocean leaves unchanged. In hopes to create upstream change and collective action, the Youth Ocean Alliance decided to hold their first ever World Oceans Day Summit. Just like COVID-19, challenges concerning the ocean do not respect borders, meaning the responsibility falls on all of our shoulders. The ocean exists with or without us, a great reservoir of our water. The Earth has one big ocean with many features, so we no longer celebrate World Oceans Day, but World Ocean Day. In this day and age, we're facing a challenge like never before, to innovate without being destructive, to contribute to the sea of life that connects each of us. Each one of you here today is a ripple of change, ready to make big ocean waves. So I challenge you to ask yourself, how far really are the impacts of human behavior, and what can I do to reduce the impacts of my behavior? I'd like to quickly introduce the Youth Ocean Alliance. The Youth Ocean Alliance is a youth-based ocean conservation organization that I founded 2 years ago. We have a team of students in over 15 countries, some working on marine conservation initiatives and others looking to start their journey. We aim to bridge the gap between young people and the rest of the world while providing a platform for anyone and everyone to find their place in ocean conservation. That said, let's jump into our first panel to hear about how you can innovate for the future without being destructive. This event is going to be in collaboration with UN World Oceans Day, and I wanted to go over the 4 objectives of the Youth Ocean Alliance. The Youth Ocean Alliance aims to 1. Create a global youth network aiming to empower future leaders. 2. Educate our youth in alignment with the principles of the UNESCO Decade of Ocean Literacy. Be the largest global platform and database for ocean conservation initiatives. And 4th, work in collaboration with other ocean conservation organizations to stem collective action, which brings us to the event today. I'd like to call our first 4 panelists to come up to the stage. So this panel is going to be talking about ocean innovation of the era. So ocean innovation has definitely evolved. Ocean conservation has definitely evolved over the last 10 to 50 years. And I think that it's something that was very interesting to look into. I think a lack of care coupled with ignorance has led to the deterioration of ocean health, but knowledge is the key to the resolution. So bringing together some of the most knowledgeable people in their field and driven youth striving to unveil the evolution of protecting the oceans, from efforts to alleviate ocean plastic to floating marine laboratories. I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Caesar Jung Harada, who's the founder of Scoutbots and Maker Bay. We have Siddhant Gupta, who's the founder of Clearbot and Open Ocean Camera as well. Dana Winograd, who is the co-founder of Plastic Free Seas, and Vikro Yu, who's the CEO of ArchiReef. Thank you for being here, guys. So the first question for today is, to what extent has ocean conservation evolved in the last 10 years, and in what ways?
Okay, hey, well, firstly, thank you so much for having us all over. Super excited about the event. So I think that my answer to that is going to come from a place of real bias. I'm a technology person, not per se a conservationist, and I've come to learn a lot about what's happening. So from my sort of perspective, what I've seen is actually the adoption of a lot of sort of software and tools to make conservation easier or quicker and basically scale it up. So in my work, I see conservationists using a lot of very simple like AI technology now to basically analyze more data, to represent it, to make sense of it, and generate insights. And I think that's a really cool thing that just wasn't there 10 years ago. So I see, from my side, I see that conservation is adopting newer technology to try and do their, conservationists are basically able to do their work better and at a larger scale because of new tech.
Thank you. Dana, I wanted to ask you, since you work with a lot of young people, what does the term ocean literacy mean to you, and why is it important?
Thank you. You threw me off there a little bit by switching up the questions. Ocean literacy is, of course, understanding how the ocean works. And why it's so important is when you're looking at something like plastic marine pollution, for example, we have to understand the ocean, the impact that we have on the ocean, the impacts that the ocean has on how our Earth works, before you can even contemplate why you would want to tackle this problem of plastic. So ocean literacy is very, very important, that we understand how the role that the ocean plays in the world, but also to get people to be connected to the ocean. If they have to know about it, they have to feel it, to see it, to touch it, ideally if they live nearby. And then hopefully they'll care for it. And that's what ocean literacy is all about.
Thank you. Another question to Vikro. Why do you think it's important to bridge the gap between older and younger generations in ocean conservation?
It's a good question between the age gap that you and I have. So from my generation, we witnessed the changes from the fishes on our planet, the impact from overexploitation, overfishing. We've seen different fishes that's disappearing, less varieties, smaller sizes. And I think the impact is going to be continuing, even though that we have already banned trawling, because the ecosystem would need much longer time to recovery. So I think that's the impact is actually larger on your generation. And I think because the ecosystem lifespan and this pace is so much slower than ours compared to human. So I think it's important. Yeah, it's important that the mission is passed to the next generation, that we can continue as a species.
Thank you. The next question I have is for Caesar. This question is actually one that I'm going to be asking to all the panelists, so meanwhile you guys can think of your answer. The question is, what is one ocean conservation initiative that you are currently working on?
Thanks so much for inviting me. So the project I'm working on right now is called, actually, we also have two people who actually work on the project here. It's called the Ocean Imagineer. So the principle is basically to have a floating platform. Imagine on the rooftop, there's a solar panel, This solar panel is actually producing electricity to feed a hydrogen electrolyzer. So actually producing hydrogen offshore. Hydrogen is the cleanest form of energy that you can actually store and consume, because when you recombine hydrogen, you just get water vapor. It's also the energy of the future to power ships, cars, even rockets. So when you go to Mars or to the moon, you are using liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. And under the platform, we have an oyster farm. So under the water, we have basically like cages full of filtering animal. And so the point of this platform that will be installed in North Point at the end of the month will be to evaluate which animals are the best for filtering the water. So there will be oysters, but also clams, and other filtering animal basically. And so the idea is that Hong Kong has about 5,000 to 10,000 oyster farms. If we equipped half of them with solar panel, we could produce more than 25 megawatts of electricity, which would be 25 times more than pretty much what we produce today. And we could also make the water much cleaner and bring biodiversity, so by a factor of 6 times in the vicinity of the installation. So it's called Ocean Imagineer, and you can, .org, you can go on the website. You are the first people actually to hear about it publicly, and it will be open on August 30th.
So anybody watching who's currently in Hong Kong, I think you could...
And Maritime Museum will be our education partner.
Shout out to the Maritime Museum, who's also loaning us the space. So if any of you watching online who are in Hong Kong want to walk by North Point and check out the Ocean Imagineer, that would be great.
And Rico, Archie Reef should be underwater as well.
Yes. If anybody wants to come and watch a beautiful lady be swimming in the water and a giant clam on the surface of the water, then Imagineer is the perfect place to go. I think also what we're going to be doing is putting all of the call to action on all of the opportunities mentioned by our speakers on our website. So if you want to find out more about the Imagineer or about Vikro's work, then you can check out the website and it should all be there. Thank you. Does anybody else want to go next?
How much time do we have? Maybe everybody can...
We still have 22 minutes.
Oh, wow, plenty of time.
Yes.
I don't know, because I was given the luck to talk about what I'm doing right now, but I'm sure all of you have some exciting things happening, so maybe we can just...
Okay. Oops. Thanks. Okay. So, of course, Plastic Free Seas is not necessarily focused on innovation and really that type of work, but we do make sure that we're aware of all of these type of initiatives so that we can teach children and raise awareness. When we go into the schools, we're able to share that, because what we found is that different students and people respond differently about plastic marine pollution. So for some, it's visual. It's seeing the pictures of the rubbish. For others, it's knowing the plight of the animals in the ocean. But for some, it's going to be innovation. And that's what's so cool, is that we bring this information to the students, let them know what's going on out there, and let them know what's in their future. It doesn't even have to be their future. It could be right now, like the things that you're doing. But, future careers, that sort of thing, that there's a need for people to be working on innovation to help solve the problems of our ocean. But what we're working on at the moment are some campaigns to raise awareness of the issue of waste. Of course, waste that's ending up in the ocean. So we're doing a coffee cup campaign at the moment to try and get people to reduce the amount of coffee cups that they're using in the coffee shops. And the next campaign will be on packaging of produce in grocery stores. So again, the packaging is what's ending up in the ocean. So if we can raise awareness, get people to understand the problems to do with excessive packaging, hopefully we can get them to make wiser choices, change their behavior, but also work with the grocery stores who have the ability to reduce the amount of packaging they're using. Therefore, hopefully we'll see less plastic packaging ending up washing on our beaches and in the oceans.
Thank you, Dana. I think another thing I'd like to highlight for this event is that it's been really nice to be able to invite all of these speakers, because a lot of them I've kind of seen growing up. I think I've worked with Caesar for almost 7 years now. Siddhant's helped me on various projects before, and Dana, I remember being a primary school student, like going on trips with Plastic Free Seas, where they would talk about working with grocery stores to get rid of the grass, the plastic grass and seaweed. So I think it's little things like that that kind of all contribute to feeling motivated to do this kind of stuff. So I really wanted to thank everybody here for all of that. Thank you. Rico, do you want to?
So yeah, our career basically want to use technology, use 3D printing technology to make planting corals as easy as planting trees, and that's accessible to anyone. So if anyone that interested in STEAMs, workshops, education, conservation, and really building the connection together with innovative ideas, please reach out to us, and our website is archive.co. So thank you again for having us here.
Of course. Siddhant, do you want to?
Sure, thanks. So, introduce myself. So I've been part of Clearbot, and at Clearbot, basically, we're trying to make robots and AI technology to collect plastic out of the ocean better. And so my call to action today is actually part of a program that we're doing with Plastic Free Seas. So what we do is we've set up an online portal where you guys can go out to the beach, take photographs of waste. Please collect it out too. Don't just leave it on the beach. But you can take photographs of like trash and put it up on our website and label it. And what that does is it helps us create a training database to train AI models to detect waste, right? And that's actually used in two ways. So one, on our robots itself, the robots get a little bit kind of better and more accurate at collecting waste in the water because they are running that same AI technology. And second is we are actually now working with some of the waste contractors in Hong Kong, and we're helping them segregate the waste better. What happens now is most of the time your waste goes to a transfer facility where if they can't segregate it, they just box it up and send it to the landfill. So having AI helps the contractor their cost for segregate more waste, which means more goes to recycling and less goes to landfill. So every picture you take, upload and label really helps us out. Thanks.
I'll just add to that for the students out there, and you don't have to be in Hong Kong. You can participate in this citizen science project. It can go towards your CAST requirements if that's what you need, but it's a great way to help wherever you are by labeling the pictures that have been taken, or if you are in Hong Kong, taking the pictures. But it can help you towards your school requirements as well.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting, and I decided to have the four of you speak together because all of your work kind of correlates with Bicro helping with Caesar's Imagineer project, and then Maker Bay has definitely helped with Clearbot, and now Plastic Free Seas is running a campaign for the photos with Clearbot, so everybody's sort of interconnected. But I think Hong Kong kind of is a place like that where it's small enough to network with a lot of different people in the same field, which is very exciting. The next question I had is if you could give a one sentence to our audience members, particularly the young people, on how to get started in ocean conservation, what would you say? And feel free to share your personal experiences on how you started.
That's difficult, but I think find something that you're passionate about. See the problem. If you're passionate about it, you will find a solution. And I think for me, that's also how I got involved. I saw a lot of rubbish on the beach. I had children. I wanted clean beaches. So I had to start looking into this problem. And the more I researched, the more I found out, the more I found the need for education. And that's what eventually led me to the place I'm in now. So if you see it's a problem, you can make a difference.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't really start in conservation to begin with, so I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And how I actually got to doing that is just trying different things. So I worked with a lot of people, like Caesar, in university as well, with the marine labs, actually, and I just worked with different people to figure out, okay, which part of this big thing is the bit that I'm most passionate about. Where can I add value? And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. So to young people, I just say try different stuff.
Thank you. I think, in my opinion, is if you want to work in the ocean for long term, also not to necessarily focus immediately on the problem, but really enjoy it. Because I think you can only stick to something if you really develop a love for it. So go swim. I was just chatting with Doug Woodring just before, and I know he spent a lot of time swimming before in the water and kayaking and having just a really good time because it's such a magical place. And then it gives you such a strong drive give you such a strong drive then to protect it. But I think if you spend too much time protecting it from the beginning, it might be a little bit of a turn off because it just feels like, I'm going to the ocean again to like work basically. So I would really encourage you to just to have a lot of fun, like discover, explore, swim, and enjoy yourself. I think that's the first thing to do.
So one thing that I learned from you guys, actually, from the younger generation, is your proactiveness and believe in yourself that you can make positive impact. I grew up in Hong Kong and I was born and raised here, so that is the faith in us that we lack in the local community. So I would say be like YOA, and just be proactive and believe in yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add something really quickly. Cesar mentioned falling in love with the ocean, and earlier Dana was mentioning when you work with young people, you try and give a kind of diversified experience because different people respond to different things. And I think that, personally, I always kind of tried to talk about the fact that people, like, the passion comes from different places. For some people, it comes from sort of fear, like seeing how scary it is that there's so much plastic on the beaches. And for a lot of people, it comes from love. Personally, for me, it came from seeing blue whales in Sri Lanka or going diving. And so it's very interesting to see the wide range of ways in which people fall in love with the ocean. I just spent the last 2 weeks at a summer course at HKU, which Cesar was leading, designing a booth called Seashell, which is supposed to be a multi-sensory experience, which when you walk inside, it's kind of like walking into the ocean, so that people who don't necessarily have access to the beautiful ocean, or even just going to a beach in countries that are landlocked, can kind of have access to that. I know that we currently have a Youth Ocean Alliance ambassador from Bhutan, which is a landlocked country, and so they're trying very hard to find a way to make people aware of ocean conservation because they don't live anywhere near the sea, and then they've never seen it before, and they also feel like they aren't doing anything to harm it because they live so far away. And so it's been really interesting to see the different ways in which people are acting. I think we can have one final question before we open it up to the floor for some questions. And the last question is, what do you think has been the largest roadblock today in comparison to in the past? Because I think, like you said, Siddhant, there's a lot more technology now, but do you think that there are any roadblocks, or does it create any challenges when it comes to ocean conservation? Sorry, I hope I didn't ask a complicated question.
I have an opinion, but you can go ahead. Okay. For me, I think one thing that's interesting is it ties into a question you asked earlier, which is the generational difference, right? So I see that like young people are like super passionate about it, want to do something. A lot of people in the older generations aren't, and a lot of those people are actually in sort of the positions of power to make a difference, right? So personally, I think that there's a gap there. And I mean, for example, what Greta Thunberg is doing is very relevant, I think, because it's literally young people saying, you need to fix this. Like, you are in the position to be able to do something about this, so you should. I think that is part of a bit of a roadblock today, especially in Asia. Like, I think in Hong Kong, people aren't that, especially at the senior level, aren't that keen to make that much of a change. So I think that's an issue.
So, in my opinion, is for example, like you would expect that something like COVID-19, for example, it's a global pandemic. Everybody's suffering from it, no matter if you're rich or if you are poor. But people who are in a developing country, for example, many of them still don't have vaccine, and people who are in a rich country, many of them are refusing to take the vaccine. And it seems that no matter how much suffering and how many even millions of people have to die, like hundreds of thousands of people have to die, like a lot of people will still not make those choices in the interest of many people who. So I'm saying is that why I connect this to the ocean is because a lot of people have talked about like a great reset and how the economy has been destroyed by something like this. If you think about COVID-19, the effect on the people's life is already terrible. But if you think about global warming, which is largely driven by the ocean, the effect is going to have on biodiversity loss. Like COVID-19 is going to be a footnote in the history of the biodiversity loss that is coming because of climate change. And I don't know, like I feel it's just that it doesn't hurt enough yet. Basically, I feel that's the roadblock. It doesn't hurt reach people hard enough yet, so that they actually put the dollars, to like, how come like so many places don't have vaccines yet? Like we have the resources. It's just the way we distribute it is so selfish and mindless.
Yeah, thank you. I've always really liked to compare the environment to the human body. I think in this case, it's a little bit weird, but we could compare ocean conservation and the state of the oceans to like digestion, for example. It's going to occur, like people eventually are going to be forced into change, but I think that people in positions of power and corporate companies are sort of enzymes or catalysts to speed up the rate at which action does come. I think that it doesn't mean that us as individuals can't do things, but I think that it would really, really, really help if we were all on the same page, I guess. I think we have some time now for the audience to ask some questions. So if they want to ask questions, then you are welcome to ask. Do our volunteers have any questions?
I don't see anybody from the corporates here in the room. And I think if we are here together, this would be a good opportunity for us to put our heads together and say, what can we do about getting the corporates out here? Why is it that it's taking us so much effort, and what can we do, each one of us, if there are 15, 20 people here with different organizations, and if all of us move in the same direction, hopefully we can move someone. So what do you think we can do?
May I put this question to the next panel, to the Maritime Museum, because I know that you are backed by the ship owner associations, right? So that means that the industry is helping to build Maritime Museum. So they must have a really strong interest in making sure the ocean is still alive and functioning. I don't know. Is that okay to
yes, of course.
To push the question back to the audience?
Cadence, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since Hong Kong is split into international branch and the local branch, do you think there's any differences between the engagement between the local school kids and the international school kids? Do you have different techniques to try and get them to engage with the oceans, that kind of thing?
I can address that very broadly, in very generalizing. I think it's to do with the curriculum that the students are learning, to be honest. There's a lot to do with that. So the international schools have a lot broader curriculum. They may be talking about these global issues a lot more than what the local schools, and that is generalizing. There are local schools that are adding things into their curriculum, but I think it's fair to say that there is a lack of this kind of knowledge being shared within the local schools, just because of how the system works and how the time that they have and the exams that they have and everything else. So there's been less of an emphasis on it. So from that point of view, you have less awareness. So when we talk to the international schools, they're already at this level and we can go higher. But when you're talking to the local schools, they might not be as aware of the problem to begin with. So you're starting at a much more basic level. And there seems to be less connection to the natural environment from the local community, and that might have to do with the weather. It's not so great to be outside, and a variety of other reasons, but there is this kind of disconnect with the natural environment, unfortunately, and that's what we're working on trying to enhance, because like I said earlier, you can't help something that you're not really aware of and that you don't have an interest in or an understanding of the need of the importance for it. So ocean literacy is so important for everyone.
Okay. Yes, you had another question? Two questions.
So this question is from online, from Rachel Malvia, and she asked, why are fishing boats not held responsible for their nets, and why can't they be registered something like cars are before they go out to sea?
I'm not an expert in fisheries or anything related, but I've heard that Taiwan is trying to execute that. I think it's a lot about the awareness. In the past, if we were talking about someone's livelihood, that is the untouchable things that you cannot curse like or point your fingers at someone that's doing that for their living. But nowadays, I think technology changed, and there are technology now that's available for us to track the system in a much tolerable cost, affordable cost. So I think people are trying to adopt that technology in a more practical term, and Taiwan is one of them. So perhaps you guys.
I have a classmate from the Royal College of Art in the UK. He's got a company called Safety Net. And what they do, they add those devices that they put inside of the nets, and they have different type of lighting that would be basically pushing or dissuading certain types of fish to get in. And so they are reducing bycatch a lot. So this is a kind of an IoT device that they add to nets. So that reduces bycatch, but it's not sort of giving a license plate, let's say, to each net. But I do reckon that would be technically definitely possible. But now I would see this only being implemented in countries that are, rich enough to have such technology system. What I've seen in other places that are not very rich is that where the fishermen were themselves very educated, and then working with the academics actually and their own fisheries, they know that it's in their best interest to control their catch, because they know that if they have too much bycatch, they will basically kill the next season. Or if they are if they're killing too much of a certain species, even that's not what they are collecting, that would destroy the ecosystem, so that would be bad for them. I really do think that that last part is actually more important than the technology. Even the technology was possible, affordable, I think that the education of the fishermen and understanding is their best long-term interest. I think that would be the strongest economic incentive, hence cultural changing, or behavior change, I would say.
So we have one question from online, from C Beyond Me, and he or she asks, when will it be possible to bring youth to visit the projects and see them in person? Imagineer, yep.
So people will be able to see the Ocean Imagineer in North Point from August 30th to November, but we could not get the license to get people on board officially. But the thing is that, for example, anybody could take any type of net, for example, but for us to put something in Victoria Harbour, it's incredibly regulated. So that's the reason we couldn't get the license. But we'll be applying for a Class 2 vessel. So we hope that in the winter, or in the end of the winter, we'll be able to have people on board. So we'll organize some workshops. We'll put that on the website, oceanimagineer.org. So we'll have some events, but I think they're going to be on land. We'll take some people one by one, but they will have to wear safety device and so on. Yeah.
Thank you. It was really funny. We had a meeting with the volunteers this morning, and so we were discussing whether the volunteers had any calls to action, because some of them have their own youth-based environmental or various organizations, and Nishant and Edric are representing Imagineer with the volunteer team, and Nishant was saying that it would be, now if you want to visit the Imagineer, you can visit it and view it from North Point. But yeah, it sounds really cool, and I'm sure virtual tours and stuff will definitely be a really amazing experience. I think that this has been a really great panel. Thank you so much to all the speakers for being here today. It was a pleasure to have all of you. We will have a kind of quick 5 to 10 minute switch over to the next panel. Just a side note, there's some food. Most of it is vegetarian, since we all like the environment. And also there's some water for everybody. And yeah, I think that's most of it. Thank you so much. It was really great to have you.